The moment you realize a friendship is one-sided. Sometimes a friendship it doesn't end with an argument. You simply stop doing something you didn't realize you were doing all along. You stop sending the first message, you stop suggesting plans, you stop checking in after weeks of silence, and then something strange happens. Nothing. The conversations disappear. The plans stop. Weeks pass and you begin wondering, was this friendship continuing because we both wanted it, or because I kept making sure it continued? One-sided friendships don't always feel one-sided while you're inside them. If you're naturally the person who reaches out, remembers important things, asks questions, or makes plans, your effort can hide the imbalance. The friendship feels active because you're supplying the activity. But reciprocity is more complicated than counting texts. And someone rarely initiating doesn't automatically mean they don't care. The real question is whether care and effort travel in both directions at all. You were keeping it going. Think about how the friendship actually moves. Who usually sends the first message? Who suggests getting together? Who remembers to ask how something important went? In many friendships, one person naturally initiates more, and that's completely normal. But sometimes one person isn't simply initiating more. They're providing nearly all the momentum. Without their effort, very little interaction would remain. The difficult part is that effort can disguise absence. Every time you reach out and receive a friendly response, you get evidence that the friendship still exists. They answer. They agree to plans. Maybe you have a great time together. What you may not notice is that they rarely create those moments themselves. Sometimes you only discover how much you've been maintaining a relationship when you stop automatically closing every distance that appears. Reciprocity isn't keeping score. Once you notice an imbalance, it's tempting to count everything. I texted 3 times. They texted once. I invited them somewhere. They didn't invite me. But healthy friendship isn't an accounting system. People have different personalities and ways of showing care. Someone may rarely initiate plans but always show up when you need them. Another friend may go weeks without texting but be completely present when you're together. Reciprocity doesn't require identical behavior. It means care travels in both directions somehow. Do they ask about your life? Or does every conversation return to theirs? Is there room for your problems as well as theirs? Do they make an effort without always being prompted? A friendship can be uneven without being one-sided. The important difference is whether both people contribute something meaningful to keeping the connection alive. Some friendships run on convenience. Some friendships feel close because circumstances make closeness easy. You work together, live nearby, attend the same school, or belong to the same group. You see each other regularly without anyone needing to make much effort. Then circumstances change. Someone moves, gets another job, or leaves the group. Suddenly maintaining the friendship requires intention. That doesn't mean the friendship was fake. Many genuine relationships begin through convenience. But proximity can do work that looks a lot like friendship effort. When proximity disappears, you discover whether either person chooses to maintain the connection. Sometimes what you're trying desperately to preserve isn't the friendship as it exists now. It's the friendship that existed when life made staying connected easy. Notice who keeps it alive. If you're enjoying this episode, consider subscribing. Every week, we explore the psychology behind relationships, human behavior, and the patterns that are easy to miss while we're living inside them. Don't judge a friendship by who sent the last text. Look at the larger pattern. Who makes room for the relationship to continue? Sometimes you don't realize how much you've been caring until you stop carrying it. You start explaining the imbalance. When you care about someone, it's easy to explain away disappointing patterns. They're busy, they're bad at texting, they're going through something. And sometimes those explanations are true. Friendship should survive periods when one person has less to give. The problem begins when temporary explanations become permanent excuses for a relationship that has required almost nothing from the other person for a very long time. Sometimes we also lower our expectations because admitting what we want feels more painful. Instead of saying, I wish they would reach out sometimes, you tell yourself it shouldn't matter. Understanding someone's reasons doesn't mean pretending your experience doesn't matter. They can have understandable reasons for giving very little, and you can still recognize that receiving very little isn't enough for the friendship you want. What happens when you stop trying? You don't need to secretly test someone by disappearing. If both people wait for the other to initiate, both can mistakenly conclude the other doesn't care. Instead, simply stop over-functioning. Don't punish them. Don't create a test they don't know they're taking. Just stop automatically filling every silence and notice what happens. Maybe they reach out. Maybe the friendship becomes more balanced. Or maybe nothing happens. That information can hurt, but it can also clarify the relationship. If a friendship disappears the moment, you stop doing all the work. Stepping back didn't necessarily destroy it. You may have simply stopped hiding how dependent it was on your effort. Sometimes you don't realize you're carrying a friendship until you finally put it down. Uneven doesn't always mean one-sided. Before deciding a friendship is one-sided, look beyond who initiates. Can you talk about your life, or are you mainly an audience for theirs? When you need support, is there room for you? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they show interest in things that matter to you? Most importantly, does the friendship generally leave you feeling connected, or do you repeatedly leave feeling overlooked or useful? Friendships naturally move through uneven periods. Sometimes you'll give more, sometimes they will. What matters is whether the relationship has movement in both directions over time. You shouldn't need constant proof that someone cares, but you also shouldn't have to manufacture all the evidence yourself. Friendship doesn't require equal effort every day. It requires enough mutual investment that both people treat the connection as something worth maintaining. Friendship should move both ways. If you're wondering whether a friendship has become one-sided, don't reduce the answer to who texts first. Look at the whole pattern. Who asks, who listens, who remembers, who makes space, who reaches out sometimes. And when you stop doing more than your share, does the friendship find a new balance or does it disappear? Those questions tell you far more than one unanswered message. Not every friendship lasts forever, and a fading relationship doesn't always need a villain. People change. Circumstances change. Sometimes two people simply want different levels of closeness, but you're allowed to notice when a relationship survives mainly because you refuse to let it fade. Give people grace. Accept that reciprocity won't always look equal. But remember that friendship requires participation from both sides. Eventually, the question isn't whether you can keep the friendship alive by yourself, it's whether you should have to. Thank you for watching. This is MindStickz.